The Manhattan skyline glittered like scattered diamonds against the dark November evening as Sophia Chen adjusted her blazer and checked her watch. The 32nd floor of Harrington Technologies buzzed with nervous energy as executives prepared for the most important board meeting of the year. She had spent weeks perfecting her marketing strategy presentation, knowing this moment could define her career trajectory at one of the world's most innovative tech companies. Sophia had always been driven by ambition. 28 she had already climbed higher than most of her peers, earning respect through brilliant campaigns that had elevated several major brands. Her reputation for turning struggling products into market leaders had caught the attention of Nathan Harrington himself, the enigmatic CEO whose revolutionary software had transformed how the world approached artificial intelligence. Nathan Harrington was a legend in the tech world. At 35, he had built his empire from a small startup in his college dorm room into a multi-billion-dollar corporation that employed thousands worldwide. His piercing green eyes and commanding presence made him both feared and admired in boardrooms across the globe. Yet, despite his success, Nathan remained an enigma, rarely appearing in public and maintaining strict boundaries between his professional and personal life. The boardroom doors opened, and Nathan entered with his usual confident stride. Noticed immediately that something seemed different about him tonight. His normally impeccable appearance showed subtle signs of fatigue, and there was a tension in his jaw that spoke of hidden stress. Their eyes met briefly across the room, and she felt that familiar flutter in her stomach that she always experienced in his presence. "Ladies and gentlemen," Nathan's voice commanded instant attention from the 12 board members seated around the polished oak table. "Tonight, we make decisions that will shape the future of Harrington Technologies for the next decade." Sophia took her seat at the presentation station, her laptop ready with the marketing proposal she had poured her heart into. The proposal outlined a revolutionary approach to launching their new AI platform, one that would require significant investment but promised unprecedented returns. She had spent countless nights refining every detail, knowing that Nathan's approval could elevate her from director to vice president. As the meeting progressed, Sophia noticed Nathan becoming increasingly pale. His responses to questions seemed delayed, and he kept pressing his hand against his chest in small, almost imperceptible gestures. Concern began to gnaw at her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on her upcoming presentation. "Miss Chen," Nathan's voice called her attention back to the moment. "Please proceed with your marketing strategy." Sophia stood, her heart racing with a mixture of professional excitement and growing worry about Nathan's condition. She began her presentation with confidence, outlining market research, demographic analysis, and projected revenue streams. Her voice was steady and professional, but her eyes kept drifting to Nathan, who seemed to be struggling to maintain his composure. Halfway through her presentation, Nathan suddenly gripped the edge of the table. His face had gone completely white, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Sophia's words faltered as she watched him struggle to breathe. "Mr. Harrington," board member James Morrison spoke up, his voice filled with concern. "Are you feeling all right?" Nathan attempted to wave off the concern, but his body betrayed him. He swayed in his chair, his breathing becoming labored and irregular. Without warning, he collapsed forward onto the table, his body going limp as gasps filled the room. Chaos erupted in the boardroom. Several executives rushed toward Nathan while others fumbled for their phones to call emergency services. Sophia felt her presentation materials slip from her hands as she instinctively moved toward him, her heart pounding with terror. "Call an ambulance immediately," she commanded, her voice cutting through the panic as she knelt beside Nathan's chair. Her marketing expertise seemed irrelevant now as maternal instincts she didn't know she possessed took control. Nathan's eyes fluttered open briefly, unfocused and filled with confusion. His lips moved as if trying to speak, but no words came. Sophia gently touched his shoulder, her voice soft and reassuring despite her own fear.
"Ed,
"It's okay," she whispered, her professional facade cracking to reveal genuine emotion. "Help is coming. Just try to stay calm." The building's security team arrived within minutes, followed quickly by paramedics who had been stationed nearby for a corporate event. As they worked to stabilize Nathan, Sophia found herself pushed back with the other executives, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from his pale form. "We need to get him to the hospital immediately," the lead paramedic announced. "His vital signs are unstable, and we're seeing signs of severe cardiac distress." Sophia's world seemed to tilt on its axis. The thought of losing Nathan, of never seeing his confident smile or hearing his brilliant insights again, was unbearable. She had always maintained professional boundaries, but in this moment of crisis, she realized her feelings for him ran far deeper than mere workplace admiration. As the paramedics prepared to transport Nathan, he opened his eyes again, this time focusing on Sophia with startling clarity. Their gazes locked, and she saw vulnerability in his green eyes that she had never witnessed before. Without thinking, she stepped forward. "I'm coming with him," she declared, her voice leaving no room for argument. "Ma'am, only family members are typically allowed," the paramedic began, but Nathan's weak voice interrupted. "She comes," he managed to whisper, his eyes never leaving Sophia's face. "Please." The ride to Manhattan General Hospital felt like an eternity. Sophia held Nathan's hand as paramedics worked around them, monitoring his heart rate and administering medication. His skin felt cold and clammy beneath her touch, and she found herself whispering prayers to deities she hadn't acknowledged since childhood. "Stay with me," she murmured, squeezing his hand gently. "The company needs you. I need you." Nathan's eyes opened at her words, and she saw something shift in his expression. Despite his physical distress, there was a warmth there that spoke of emotions neither of them had dared to acknowledge before this crisis. At the hospital, Sophia paced the waiting room while doctors worked to stabilize Nathan's condition. Hours passed with no updates, and she found herself replaying every interaction they had ever had, searching for signs she might have missed that could have prevented this moment. Dr. Rebecca Santos finally emerged from the intensive care unit, her expression serious but not hopeless. Sophia approached her with trembling legs, preparing herself for the worst possible news. "Mr. Harrington is stable for now," Dr. Santos began, and Sophia felt her knees nearly buckle with relief. "However, his condition is quite serious. He's experienced what appears to be stress-induced cardiomyopathy, commonly called broken heart syndrome. His heart muscle has been severely weakened by extreme emotional and physical stress." Sophia absorbed this information, her mind racing. With questions and implications, will he recover? "It's difficult to say at this point," Dr. Santos replied honestly. "The next 24 hours are critical. His body needs complete rest, and his stress levels must be kept to an absolute minimum. Any additional shock or emotional trauma could be fatal." The weight of those words settled heavily on Sophia's shoulders. She realized that Nathan's life hung in a delicate balance, and that even the smallest disruption could tip the scales toward disaster. "Can I see him?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Santos studied her for a moment, perhaps recognizing the genuine care and concern in her expression. "He's asked for you specifically. You can stay, but please keep any conversation calm and minimal. His heart cannot handle any additional stress right now." Nathan's room was dimly lit, filled with the soft beeping of monitors and the gentle hush of oxygen flowing through tubes. He looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way that seemed impossible for someone who commanded such power in the business world. His dark hair was disheveled against the white pillows, and his usually commanding presence was replaced by an almost childlike fragility. Sophia approached his bedside carefully, her heart aching at the sight of him so weak and defenseless. His eyes opened as she drew near, and a small smile played at the corners of his mouth despite his condition. "You stayed," he whispered, his voice hoarse from the breathing tube they had removed earlier. "Of course I stayed," Sophia replied, settling into the chair beside his bed. "Did you think I would abandon you when you needed someone most?" Nathan's eyes searched her face, and she saw confusion mixed with something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken despite the circumstances. "I don't understand what's happening to me," he admitted. "Not just physically, but emotionally. When I collapsed, all I could think about was how I might never see you again." Sophia felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. The professional boundaries that had always defined their relationship seemed insignificant now, replaced by raw human connection in the face of mortality. "You're going to be fine," she said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "The doctors said you need rest and minimal stress. I'm going to make sure you get both." "You're going to be fine," she said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "The doctors said you need rest and minimal stress. I'm going to make sure you get both." The morning sun painted Manhattan's skyline in shades of gold and amber as Sophia slowly opened her eyes in the uncomfortable hospital chair. Her neck ached from sleeping in an awkward position, but the discomfort vanished the moment she saw Nathan's green eyes watching her with a clarity that had been absent the night before. His color had returned, and the frightening pallor that had terrified her was replaced by his natural, healthy complexion. "Good morning, beautiful," Nathan whispered, his voice stronger than it had been in hours. The endearment sent warmth cascading through Sophia's chest, a reminder that everything between them had fundamentally changed during the dark hours of the night. Sophia sat up quickly, immediately checking the monitors surrounding his bed. His heart rate appeared steady, and the alarming irregularities from the previous evening seemed to have stabilized. Relief flooded through her as she realized he was truly going to be okay. "Are you feeling?" she asked, reaching for his hand. Instinctively, the simple gesture felt natural now, as if the confessions they had shared in the darkness had dissolved all the professional barriers that had kept them apart for months. Nathan squeezed her fingers gently, his thumb tracing small circles across her knuckles. "Better than I have in years," he admitted, his eyes never leaving her face. "Last night changed everything for me, Sophia. Not just the medical scare, but finally telling you how I feel. I've been carrying this weight for so long, and now that it's out in the open, I feel like I can breathe again." Before Sophia could respond, Dr. Santos entered the room with a tablet in hand and a cautiously optimistic expression. Between Nathan and Sophia, clearly noting their joined hands, but maintained her professional demeanor as she approached the bed. "Mr. Harrington, I'm pleased to see such improvement in your condition." Dr. Santos began, checking the various monitors surrounding his bed. "Your heart rhythm has stabilized significantly overnight, and your blood pressure has returned to normal ranges. However, I want to be very clear about what happened to you." Nathan nodded, his grip on Sophia's hand tightening slightly as he prepared to hear the full extent of his condition. "You experienced what we call stress cardiomyopathy, Doctor," Santos explained. "Your heart muscle was severely weakened by extreme emotional and physical stress. While this condition can be temporary and reversible, it's also a serious warning sign that your body has reached its breaking point." Sophia felt her stomach clench with worry as the doctor continued. The thought of Nathan pushing himself to such dangerous limits filled her with both concern and determination to protect him from whatever pressures had brought him to this crisis. "What does this mean for his recovery?" Sophia asked, her voice steady despite her internal turmoil. "Complete rest for at least 2 weeks," Dr. Santos replied firmly. "No work, no stress, no major decisions. His heart needs time to heal, and any significant emotional or physical strain could trigger another episode. I'm also recommending ongoing counseling to help him develop better stress management techniques." Nathan's jaw tightened at the mention of time away from work. Sophia could practically see his mind racing, calculating the deals that would be delayed, the meetings that would need to be rescheduled, the competitors who might gain advantage during his absence. "The company can survive without you for 2 weeks," Sophia said softly, reading his thoughts with startling accuracy. "Your health is more important than any business deal." Nathan looked at her with surprise and something deeper, a recognition that someone finally understood the internal battles he had been fighting alone for years. The weight of building and maintaining a billion-dollar empire had isolated him from meaningful connections. And Sophia's simple statement of priority touched something profound within him. After Dr. Santos was left with instructions for his discharge, later that day, Nathan and Sophia found themselves alone again. The morning light streaming through the windows illuminated the magnitude of what had transpired between them, making their confessions feel both surreal and undeniably real. "I need to tell you something," Sophia said, her voice carrying a nervous tension that made Nathan's attention sharpen. What happened last night, what we said to each other, it can't just disappear when we go back to the office. But I'm terrified about what it means for both of our careers. Nathan studied her face, seeing the conflict that mirrored his own concerns. The corporate world was unforgiving when it came to relationships between superiors and subordinates, especially at their level where decisions affected thousands of employees and millions in revenue. I've been thinking about that too, Nathan admitted. The board will have questions about last night, about who was with me, about the circumstances of my collapse. If they discover our relationship, they could use it to challenge my leadership, or question your qualifications for advancement. Sophia nodded, her heart sinking as reality intruded on the emotional sanctuary they had created in the hospital room. She had worked too hard to earn her position to have it undermined by accusations of favoritism or impropriety. Yet the thought of pretending her feelings for Nathan didn't exist felt equally unbearable. Maybe we should take this slowly, she suggested, though every fiber of her being rebelled against the idea of stepping backward. Figure out how to navigate the professional complications before we move forward personally. Nathan's expression darkened, and she saw a flash of the commanding CEO who had built his empire through decisive action and unwavering determination. I spent 8 years building this company while denying myself any real personal connections, he said firmly. I convinced myself that success required complete sacrifice, that love was a luxury I couldn't afford. Last night showed me how wrong. His intensity made Sophia's pulse quicken, but she forced herself to consider the practical implications. Nathan, I love you too, but we have to be smart about this. One wrong move could destroy everything we've both worked for. Then we'll be smarter than everyone else, Nathan replied, his voice carrying the same confidence that had made him a legend in the tech world. We'll find a way to protect both our relationship and our careers. I refuse to choose between loving you and leading this company. Before Sophia could respond, her phone rang with the urgent tone she had assigned to work calls. The screen displayed the name of James Morrison, the senior board member who had witnessed Nathan's collapse. Her stomach dropped as she realized. The corporate world was already demanding answers. I should take this, she said reluctantly, stepping into the hallway to answer the call. Sophia, thank God you're answering. James's voice carried unusual stress. We need to talk immediately. There are rumors circulating about Nathan's condition, and the stock price dropped 12% in pre-market trading. The board is convening an emergency meeting in 2 hours. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. What kind of rumors? Everything from heart attack to nervous breakdown to hostile takeover conspiracy, James replied grimly. We need Nathan to make a public statement, or we need someone authorized to speak on his behalf. The company's reputation is hanging by a thread. He's not medically cleared to deal with business matters yet, Sophia said carefully, glancing back toward Nathan's room. Dr. Santos was very specific about avoiding stress. Then we have a serious problem, James continued. The board is considering invoking the emergency succession clause if Nathan can't resume his duties immediately. There are already whispers about his fitness to lead, especially after what appeared to be a very public breakdown. Sophia felt panic rising in her chest as she understood the implications. The emergency succession clause would remove Nathan from his CEO position if the board deemed him incapable of fulfilling his duties. Everything he had built, everything that defined his identity, could be stripped away because of one moment of vulnerability. Give me 1 hour, Sophia said firmly. I'll figure something out. She returned to Nathan's room to find him sitting up in bed, his business instincts already sensing trouble. What's wrong? He asked immediately. Reading the tension in her posture, Sophia explained James's call and the board's emergency meeting. Watching Nathan's expression shift from concern to barely controlled fury, the monitors around his bed began beeping more rapidly as his heart rate increased in response to the stress. They're using my medical emergency as an excuse to stage a coup, Nathan said through gritted teeth. Morrison has been positioning himself for a takeover for months, and now he sees his opportunity. Nathan, you need to calm down, Sophia urged, moving closer to his bed as the monitor alarms grew more insistent. Getting upset will only make your condition worse. How can I stay calm when everything I've built is being torn apart? Nathan demanded, his voice rising despite her concerns. I should never have shown weakness in front of the board. In the corporate world, vulnerability is blood in the water. Sophia made a decision that surprised even herself. She leaned forward and kissed Nathan gently, her lips meeting his with tender authority that immediately commanded his attention. When she pulled back, his breathing had slowed, and the monitors had returned to their steady rhythm. We're going to fight this together, she said with quiet determination. But we're going to be smart about it. I have an idea, but I need you to trust me completely. Nathan searched her face, seeing something there that gave him hope despite the chaos threatening to engulf them. What do you have in mind? I'm going to that board meeting, Sophia announced. As your designated representative and the person who witnessed your medical emergency firsthand, I'll present a plan that protects both your position and your health, while addressing their concerns about leadership continuity. They'll eat you alive, Nathan warned, though admiration flickered in his eyes. Morrison and his allies have been waiting for an opportunity like this for years, and then they'll discover that I'm not as easy to digest as they think. Sophia replied with a smile that reminded Nathan exactly who he had fallen in love with. I didn't become the youngest marketing director in company history by backing down from powerful men who underestimate me. Nathan reached for her hand, bringing it to his lips to place a gentle kiss on her palm. If we do this, if you go in there fighting for me, there's no going back. Everyone will know that you're important to me, and they'll use that knowledge against both of us. Sophia met his gaze steadily, her decision already made. I'm not afraid of them knowing I love you, Nathan. I'm only afraid of losing you to fear in corporate politics. Then go show them what happens when they threaten something you care about, Nathan said, his voice filled with pride and love. But promise me something, anything. Promise me that no matter what happens in that boardroom, no matter what they say or threaten, you won't sacrifice yourself to save my career. I'd rather lose everything than watch you destroy your future for mine. Sophia leaned down to kiss him once more, this time with all the passion and promise she had been holding back for months. When they separated, she smiled with the confidence of a woman who had finally found something worth fighting for. Don't worry about me, she said, straightening her blazer and preparing for battle. Worry about Morrison and his friends when they realize they've picked a fight with the wrong woman. As Sophia left the hospital and headed toward the most important meeting of her career, both she and Nathan understood that the next few hours would determine not only the fate of Harrington Technologies, but also whether their newfound love could survive the brutal realities of corporate warfare. The stakes had never been higher, and failure was not an option either of them was willing to accept. The Harrington Technologies boardroom had never felt more imposing as Sophia Chen stepped through the glass doors precisely at 9 o'clock. 12 of the most powerful executives in the tech industry sat around the polished conference table, their expressions ranging from curious to openly hostile. At the head of the table, James Morrison shuffled through papers with the satisfied air of a man who believed victory was within his grasp. Sophia had spent the taxi ride from the hospital preparing for this moment, knowing that everything she and Nathan had built separately and everything they hoped to build together hung in the balance. She wore her most professional charcoal suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun that projected authority and competence. But beneath her composed exterior, her heart raced with the knowledge that she was about to risk everything for love. Chen Morrison's voice carried thinly veiled condescension as he gestured to an empty chair at the far end of the table. Thank you for joining us. I trust Mr. Harrington is receiving appropriate medical care. Mr. Harrington is recovering well, Sophia replied evenly, choosing to remain standing rather than accept the subordinate position Morrison had offered. His doctors expect a full recovery, and he specifically asked me to represent his interests. In this meeting, board member Patricia Wells leaned forward, her steel-gray eyes studying Sophia with calculating intensity. Miss Chen, while we appreciate your concern for our CEO, this board has serious questions about the leadership stability of this company. What we witnessed yesterday was deeply troubling. Sophia had anticipated this line of attack. Mrs. Wells, what you witnessed yesterday was a dedicated leader who has pushed himself to the breaking point in service of this company's success. Mr. Harrington's medical episode was stress-related, completely treatable, and in no way affects his mental capacity or business judgment. Stress-related episodes suggest poor decision-making and inability to handle pressure, Morrison interjected, his tone growing more aggressive. In today's competitive market, we cannot afford a CEO who collapses under pressure. The stock market has already rendered its verdict on Mr. Harrington's fitness to lead. Sophia felt anger flare in her chest, but forced her voice to remain calm and professional. Mr. Morrison, I find it interesting that you're so concerned about stock prices when your own trading records show you've been short-selling Harrington Technologies shares for the past 6 months. It appears you've been betting against this company's success long before yesterday's events. The room fell silent as Morrison's face flushed red. Sophia had done her research during the taxi ride, using her phone to access public trading records that revealed Morrison's financial interest in Nathan's downfall. The other board members exchanged glances as they absorbed this revelation. "Dare you question my loyalty to this company?" Morrison sputtered. But his outrage lacked conviction now that his motivations had been exposed. "I'm not questioning your loyalty," Sophia replied smoothly. "I'm questioning your judgment and your fitness to lead a coup against the man who built this company from nothing into the industry leader it is today." Patricia Wells cleared her throat, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the meeting had taken. "Miss Chen, regardless of Mr. Morrison's trading activities, the fact remains that we need stable leadership. If Mr. Harrington cannot perform his duties, we have a responsibility to our shareholders to ensure continuity." "I agree completely," Sophia said, pulling out a tablet and connecting it to the room's presentation system, "which is why I'm here. To present a comprehensive leadership transition plan that protects both Mr. Harrington's health and the company's interests." The screen behind her illuminated with a detailed organizational chart that she had created during her research. The plan outlined a temporary delegation of responsibilities that would allow Nathan to focus on strategic vision while trusted executives handled day-to-day operations during his recovery. This structure provides immediate operational stability, while ensuring that Mr. Harrington's visionary leadership remains at the helm, Sophia explained, her confidence growing as she saw several board members nodding approvingly. It also includes provisions for medical monitoring and stress management that will prevent future health crises. Board member Robert Chen, no relation despite the shared surname, leaned back in his chair with evident interest. "This is actually quite comprehensive, Miss Chen. Have you discussed this plan with Nathan?" "Mr. Harrington has reviewed and approved every aspect of this proposal," Sophia replied, grateful that Nathan had trusted her enough to give blanket approval for whatever strategy she deemed necessary. He recognizes that his health is paramount, not just for personal reasons, but for the long-term success of the company he loves. Morrison slammed his hand on the table, his composure finally cracking completely. "This is ridiculous. You're asking us to trust the future of a billion-dollar company to a man who collapsed in front of us, and a marketing director who's clearly compromised by..." The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud, and Sophia felt every eye in the room focus on her with new intensity. Morrison had played his final card, attempting to destroy her credibility by questioning her objectivity. She realized this was the moment that would define not only her career, but also her relationship with Nathan. "Mr. Morrison, you're absolutely right," Sophia said, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "I am personally invested in Nathan Harrington's well-being. I've watched him sacrifice his health, his personal relationships, and his happiness in service of this company for years. I've seen him make decisions that benefited every person in this room, often at great personal cost." She paused, looking around the table at faces that had shifted from hostility to curiosity. "And yes, I've fallen in love with him, not because he's the CEO, not because of his wealth or power, because he's a man of integrity who builds people up rather than tearing them down." The admission sent ripples of shock through the room, but Sophia pressed forward, her voice growing stronger with each word. If you believe that loving someone compromises my ability to make sound business decisions, then you fundamentally misunderstand what leadership means. Love doesn't make us weaker. It makes us fight harder for what matters. Patricia Wells was the first to break the stunned silence. Miss Chen, while your honesty is admirable, surely you understand the potential conflicts of interest that your relationship creates. I understand them completely, Sophia replied, which is why I'm prepared to resign my position effective immediately if this board votes to remove Nathan as CEO. Morrison's eyes lit up with triumph, believing he had maneuvered her into destroying herself. How convenient. You remove yourself from the equation and eliminate any concerns about impropriety. You misunderstand, Mr. Morrison, Sophia said with a smile that made several board members sit up straighter. I'm not offering to resign to make your takeover easier. I'm offering to resign because I believe Nathan Harrington is the best leader this company has ever had, and I'm willing to sacrifice my career to prove it. She turned to address the full board, her voice carrying the passion and conviction that had made her a legend in marketing circles. If you remove Nathan, you're not just losing a CEO, you're losing the visionary who transformed artificial intelligence from science fiction into practical reality. You're losing the leader who has consistently delivered profits while maintaining the highest ethical standards in the industry. Robert Chen leaned forward with evident interest. What exactly are you proposing, Miss Chen? I'm proposing that you give Nathan 6 months to prove that his leadership, supported by the transition plan I've outlined, can deliver better results than any alternative you're considering, Sophia replied. If the company's performance declines, during that period, I'll personally recommend his resignation and forfeit any severance or benefits I might be entitled to. And if the company's performance improves, Patricia Wells asked, clearly intrigued despite herself, then Mr. Morrison and anyone else who supported this coup attempt should resign from the board for acting against the company's best interests, Sophia said boldly. And this board should formally apologize to Nathan for questioning his leadership during a medical crisis. The room erupted in heated discussion as board members debated among themselves. Sophia watched Morrison's confidence evaporate as he realized that several of his allies were wavering in the face of her comprehensive defense and bold challenge. After 20 minutes of intense debate, Patricia Wells called for order. Miss Chen, your proposal is unprecedented, but so are the circumstances. However, before we can consider any of this, we need to hear directly from Nathan. Can he participate in a video conference? Sophia smiled, knowing that Nathan had been waiting for this exact moment. She dialed his hospital room and connected the call to the boardroom's video system. Nathan appeared on screen, sitting up in his hospital bed but looking alert and commanding despite his surroundings. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan's voice filled the room with the authority that had made him a legend. I understand you have concerns about my leadership, and I respect your responsibility to our shareholders. But I want you to know that Sophia Chen has just demonstrated the kind of loyalty, intelligence, and courage that makes great leaders. He paused, his gaze moving from face to face on the screen. She didn't speak for me today because we're personally involved. She spoke for me because she believes in the vision we've built together and the future we can create. If you can't see the value in that kind of dedication, then perhaps you're the ones who aren't fit to lead this company. Morrison made one final desperate attempt. Nathan, surely you can see how your relationship with Miss Chen compromises both of your positions? Nathan's smile was both gentle and absolutely ruthless. James, my relationship with Sophia began when I nearly died and realized that all the success in the world means nothing without someone to share it with. She stayed by my side when she could have been advancing her own career, and today she risked everything to defend mine. If that's what you call compromise, then I hope every leader in this company becomes similarly compromised. Patricia Wells called for a formal vote on Sophia's proposal. One by one, board members cast their votes with Morrison and 2 allies. Ultimately standing alone in opposition, the final tally was 9-3 in favor of Nathan's continued leadership with the transition plan Sophia had outlined. As the meeting concluded and board members filed out, Morrison paused at Sophia's chair. You've won this battle, he said quietly, but corporate warfare is rarely decided by single engagements. This isn't over. You're absolutely right, Sophia replied calmly. It's not over. It's just beginning. Okay, now Nathan and I will be fighting. Together. 2 hours later, Sophia returned to Nathan's hospital room to find him sitting up with the color fully returned to his cheeks and a smile that could have powered the entire city. She fell into his arms with relief and exhaustion, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of what they had just accomplished. We did it, she whispered against his chest. The board voted to keep you as CEO in the transition plan. Is approved. Nathan held her tightly, his voice thick with emotion. No, Sophia, you did it. You saved everything that matters to me, including showing me what really matters most. Which is what? She asked, pulling back to look into his eyes. You, Nathan replied simply. Everything else can be rebuilt. But finding someone willing to fight for you the way you fought for me today, that's irreplaceable. 6 months later, Harrington Technologies posted record profits while Nathan's health remained perfect under the stress management protocols Sophia had insisted upon. Morrison had quietly resigned from the board after his short-selling activities became public knowledge, and Sophia had been promoted to Chief Marketing Officer with unanimous board approval. On a warm spring evening, as they stood on the balcony of Nathan's penthouse apartment overlooking the Manhattan skyline, Sophia reflected on how much their lives had changed since that terrifying night in the hospital. Are you okay? Nathan asked, echoing the question she had whispered to him during his darkest moment. Sophia smiled, leaning into his embrace as the city sparkled below them like scattered stars. With you here, she replied, I'm more than okay. I'm finally alive. Their love story had begun with crisis and vulnerability, been tested by corporate warfare and personal sacrifice, and had emerged stronger than either of them had dared to dream. As Nathan pulled her closer and their lips met under the New York stars, they both knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them together. In the end, love hadn't compromised their careers. It had elevated them both. Two heights they never could have reached alone. And in a world where power and profit often came at the cost of humanity, Nathan and Sophia had proven that the greatest success comes not from what you achieve, but from whom you choose to share those achievements with.